Thanks for being here, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I got you something. Well, actually, I got you something in 1994, but I didn't know it was for you. So I noticed you've gotten really into cocktails.
Yes.
So I got this old school Mr. Boston.
Oh, awesome.
Probably no information in there you need, but it's just like a nostalgic.
Heck yeah.
I'm into cocktails and stuff too. But
yeah.
And that was the first time I came across the idea of it. I was like 14. It was in my parents' house. I picked this thing up, next to my Encyclopedia Britannica.
Right.
And I was like, what is this little book? And I opened it up. I was like, no way.
Yeah. For people that don't know, encyclopedias are things that you used to have to use to look up information on before the internet.
Yeah, right.
This is awesome. Heck yeah. Thanks, man. This is super cool.
No problem. And for people who don't know, that thing's called a book.
Yeah, it's called an actual book. It doesn't light up. You can. So this is bad. I do so much on my iPad art-wise and everything that I've caught myself a few times trying to zoom in on something.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever done some dumb shit like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That and then I don't do it anymore, but when I first got it and started using it, my wife would just start cracking up sitting next to me because I would be erasing something on my iPad and I would brush it off.
Yeah.
Like there's supposed to be eraser dust. And she's like, there's no dust on it. Do I still do that? She's like, yep.
And anybody under 15 is going to look at you like you're really crazy. What is eraser dust?
Yeah. What is an eraser? That's like, dude, this has got a lot in it though, actually.
What I like about it is it's not just cocktails. It's how to party too.
Right.
Like how to have a party.
Yeah, I opened it right to something that was like a trick.
Oh,
Almost
yeah.
like a little money trick or something.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Super cool, man.
I'm sure it used to be like the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
For that.
Yeah. I honestly got into it over quarantine. I think there's quite a few people that might have, drank a little too much during quarantine.
Yeah.
What else are you doing?
Yeah.
They had some deal on Masterclass where you can get like all of them for some cheap thing because everybody's just stuck in their house. So it's pretty smart of them. So we signed up for it and I ended up taking a bartending masterclass and my wife's like super awesome cook. And so it just got to where she would be making some food and she's trying to make some Indian food something. So then I start kind of thinking of what would be a Indian cocktail, what they would make with that. If you tried to, make something that went with that, what would it be? Start like the really good, bars that almost think of cocktails as even just pairing with stuff like you would wine, that idea of what would actually go good with this. And yeah, it just ended up being kind of fun.
Yeah, and yours are pretty impressive. I haven't tasted all yours, but I see them on your social media. And I'm like, damn, the presentation.
Well, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's half of it at least.
Well, I mean, it's, when you think of doing it in an actual bar setting, that seems insane. But you have to go to one of those places, though, where everyone there knows you order a drink, it's going to be 15 minutes because the guy's making a boat, or something on top of it. And it's awesome. That's part of the experience, but you could never pull that off real well in a bar that's just banging people up there and you're trying to get shit out. You can't do that.
Not profitably.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, unless you're one of these. Like we went to a place in
Chicago. If it's $35 for your cocktail, then
you're good.
They can take their time.
Yeah.
And still make money.
Yeah, because it comes out on your little drinks like this, and it comes out on some crazy plate with sculptures and smoking shit. And
yes. That's the best, though.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, yeah. There's that Netflix show. Did you see that at all? It's like Ink Master for bartending.
I haven't.
It's pretty gnarly.
Some
of the stuff they do, yeah, it's pretty crazy, but it's 5 hours to make a cocktail.
Right, yeah. It's just building and building and building.
Yeah, I bought a book called For the Aviary. It's a joint we went to in Chicago. And it's like that. It's amazing. But when I got the book, I was like, I'm never gonna make a damn thing out of this sucker. Like I don't have to come home and be like, well, cool, I'm really thirsty. Let's make a cocktail. Let's okay. Now I gotta cook 7 things and you're like
reduce
shit.
some cola. And,
yeah. I was like, I have a centrifuge, you know.
Yes. Yeah, hold on, I'll be back. I have to ignite the gunpowder.
Right.
Get some ash.
Absolutely.
Rainwater.
Yeah, I'm just like, how do I get raccoon tears? You know?
Yes. That's right.
They found it.
I see you outside wandering around looking for Smurf urine.
Right. That's hard to find.
Yeah, it is.
That's hard to find. That's an expensive cocktail.
Yeah, call it Gargamel.
Absolutely.
That's the name of the cocktail,
Yeah,
the Gargamel.
Yeah, that's a little Osriel sidecar.
He did used to make cocktails all the time.
Yeah, like potion.
That's right.
See,
yeah.
he's ahead of his time. Shit, smoking.
That's right. It was Smurf urine.
Yeah.
That was the recipe.
Yeah, I think the guy that made Smurfs was probably actually on shrooms.
Safe bet. There were shrooms in every shot.
Every shot.
Didn't they live in
they
shrooms?
Lived in them. Yeah, that's their house.
I know exactly how he came up with that idea.
Yep.
I've been there.
Yep. I am the shrooms right now.
Yeah. I'll bet there's a life inside of this. I've had that thought.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's what's funny about these kind of things. Like, well, for the people that know me a certain amount, you'll learn things like that from this.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I've done that, Mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For the record, I've eaten psychedelic mushrooms.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm quite the fan.
Yeah, I feel lucky. I've talked to people who are like, it was an extremely difficult experience, like a bad trip.
You know, there's some stuff when I was younger I did that I quit doing, not because I ever had a problem with it, but I saw so many people that I was around couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't done, LSD since I was, still in my teens, probably 19 or something, because I was always able to have this still lock with it where someone would come up, oh my God, like freaking out. Look, there's all these bubbles on my skin and blah, 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 because they're just tripping balls. And I would be able to go, yeah, like that's cool. I'm like, but it's not really there. We're on drugs, man.
Oh, you were on it too, and it still didn't freak you out?
No, everybody would be like tripping about this stuff that was going on, or they were seeing and how they were feeling. But I was always able to kind of have that separation where I remembered, like, well, we are on drugs, guys.
Yeah, right.
We kind of didn't do this just to sit around and eat pizza and watch a football game.
Right. Yeah, I've always had good luck too, man. Just good trips are just my default.
Yeah, I've never had a bad one.
But I have had that feeling before, like, oh no, it's going to last forever. When you start to lose your usual sense of conscious experience. And that feeling of like you're permanently changing. And then you have to remind yourself, oh no, this wears off.
Yes. And there is
enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
There's a part of it that I actually think you kind of do permanently change. And hopefully for the people that have the good experiences, it actually helps you. The only reason I haven't done a couple of other things, like I think ayahuasca sounds amazing. I think there's a part of that seems awesome. But I've had acid trips that were like 10 hours, and even though it was a good time, flat out, dude, I was fucking over it. But at a certain point, I'm like, I just kind of just
and it was a good time though.
Sleep. What's that?
And that was probably a good time for 10 hours. You were still over it. Imagine the part of the ayahuasca that makes you like feel like you're dying and purging your evil spirits and shit. Like,
yeah, you gotta puke. I don't know, something about that throws me off too. When someone's like, "Oh man, here's this awesome drug. It does all the experience." Okay. First of all, you're going to like puke and shit yourself or whatever. I'm like, I'm kind of,
I don't actually,
you're losing me.
I don't mind puking and shitting myself, but in that state of mind, that state of experience, man, you know how everything is like deep. Mm-hmm. Like, this is going to be, I don't know why I'm even saying this on record, but there was one time where like I had to poop really bad and I was on acid. The whole thing was this just interesting, deep, uncomfortable experience, and I realized later I was like, that was perfectly normal. But it seemed like a big deal.
Well, it's weird when you're on something like that and you feel Like at least I thought it was a trip when even just I feel my stomach growl or something. I got so aware of like my guts,
Right.
you know, or like what you are.
What's this meat bag doing?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like the meat suit, you know, your weird costume thing that you're in all the time.
Yeah,
It feels
exactly.
like that, you know, and it's so strange when you feel that stuff. Like I remember, you know, back to it's a good story for Mom. I remember coming home once after I'd just been tripping balls all night. I was still on it. So I had this deal where this is back to what we were just talking to a minute ago before we actually started this. I was with a group of people. We took some acid. It was great. We were all coming down, and this guy was one of the guys in the group. He had some weed. He's like, "Hey, let's anybody want to smoke one?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. You know, no big deal." Light it up and pass this thing around, and I mean, in seconds, it was. Your trip is freaking back hardcore than it ever was before.
It stimulated your
completely
trip.
different. Well, we found out that the guy he got that from was being watched by the police, and that he was also dealing in PCP.
Oh no!
And so he was trying to get rid of it.
Oh,
And so he
no.
started dusting his weed with PCP. So this is the story of the time I accidentally smoked PCP. And then, you're still got acid in your system. So this is probably just one of the most amazing things that ever happened to me.
It turned out good.
Well, everybody lost their shit.
Yeah.
This is back to one of the times I didn't. But until The Matrix came out, which is a whole other subject we can get into in the modern
Yes.
world of we all are in a simulation. But until the Matrix movie came out, I could never explain to people to where someone else I felt like could really understand what I was saying until I could compare it to that scene. So the scene in the movie and the first one at the end when Neo sees the Matrix and everything has like the letters and numbers flying around it, and the
yeah.
walls are just, but it's all like green and digital.
Yeah.
So I had that watermarked, flying and moving over everything. I mean, everything. This mic, it would be going around the cord, around this, around every little shape, running through, and it was like bright neon color, just watermark over everything. And I ended up going into this room in this house because everybody was just losing their shit, and I was trying to deal with all of that while trying to help people not lose their shit. And so I ended up just locking myself in this room so I could just deal with it myself.
Oh my god!
And I wish I still had it in a book somewhere, but the letters and numbers would light up here and there, just flying, and I would catch them and notice. And I started writing it down, because then I started thinking, is my subconscious, is it spelling something to me? Did I open
Right.
something up?
Secret message.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was absolute gibberish. It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know what Chlorphy 75 good nerf means,
Right. I have to trip again to read it.
Yes. So that ended up happening, and everybody freaked out. People didn't handle that version of the night well. But earlier we were talking about things that we fear we tend to want to make ourselves do. So I literally got the same stuff, the same weed, the same acid. I got it all the next weekend.
No way.
And went and did it again. I hit it a little bit, smoked, and the exact same thing happened again. I mean, it wasn't like a different version of a trip. It was the same exact thing.
No way.
And I end up in this room just kind of watching all this watermark.
You went to the
over
same
everything.
setting, the same room.
Well, I was in a room, but not the
okay.
same house. This was a buddy's house.
Okay.
I was actually, I think at that time, I was at my brother's place because he was going to school in Purdue.
But
And I
all
went up
rooms,
there.
but all rooms were the same to you, probably.
Oh, yeah.
because they
They're
were
just-
all made of code.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to experience that again, and because it was nuts to me. It was
See if it's the same or
Yeah.
what's changed.
and it was, and I sat there in that world for 8 hours. But the odd part of the original, even bringing this up, was that I came home the first time I did that, still tripping my balls, and I roll it in the morning, and my mom, my stepdad's there, my brother, they're all eating breakfast. My mom had made biscuits and gravy, and I remember sitting there. trying to just eat this biscuits and gravy,
Yes.
and it just felt like
I've been
cement in my mouth, and you're just trying to choke this shit down and act like you're cool, you know?
Yes.
And that was the
Just
only.
trying to get it to hold still on your plate.
Oh, I know. You're just like, you know, it's so bad, man. Of while you're just trying to play it off.
You didn't drink the orange juice, did you?
No, no. I was just trying to. I was just like, yeah. I ate a few bites of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually just not real hungry. And quickest thing I could do just to get out of there and go up in my room. Yeah,
did the same thing, except I drank the orange juice, and I didn't know that was a thing. I was like, "Be cool, man." Drank some of the orange juice, and all the damn collars in the room started melting again and shit. And
that's like a vitamin C thing or something.
I have no idea what the science is. I've heard all
Okay.
kinds of pseudoscience about it. I don't know that any of that's true, but I can tell you from my experience that I drank the orange juice and my trip came back like 20%.
Oh, okay. When you were talking about drinking the orange juice, I thought you meant like it just tasted terrible while you were on acid or something.
No, it brought it back, yeah.
I actually haven't heard that one.
Really?
No.
No, it definitely did.
I've heard hot water.
Yeah.
I've heard that it's like stored in your. I remember back in the day hearing it was like stored in your spine.
Yeah.
And then hot water could trigger it and like bring it back.
Beats me.
Because I had a buddy of mine that swore that happened.
PCP on acid, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The only reason I was groaning over here is because I also accidentally smoked PCP on weed once. Some dirt bag was passing a joint around and thought it was hilarious, and I had a terrible outer body, everything turned purple and puke all over my shoes experience. But I can't imagine doing that while tripping.
Yeah. I have also been told that for people that have just done PCP on its own, that when I tell them about that trip, that it's like, yeah, that's a weird mixture that happened with you, because people talk about, obviously you back. I remember first hearing a PCP with the guy that was taking on 7 cops.
Yeah,
you know,
jumping off buildings,
raging out. Yeah, like the cops couldn't take him down. He would turn into Superman. But then other people were telling me that their biggest issue on it was they struggled looking at anything because they had this crazy trip of depth perception that, you know, if you looked at this book, all of a sudden it's just like right there in your face, and everything's like.
That was sort of my experience. Okay. I was standing in the woods outside of a campfire, and I literally, well, not literally because it was all subjective experience, but I was looking down at myself from overhead, like an outer body experience, except not cool at all.
Right.
Like if it was like playing in a video game and that was my avatar and I wasn't first person shooter anymore.
Yeah.
Like I would try to walk and I would just be looking down at myself and trip over shit. But I couldn't see like out of my own eyes. It made no sense.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh no, this is awful.
Yeah, kind of like.
Especially if it sneaks up on you because you don't know you're smoking it.
It's a whole different world when you don't know what you're on.
Yeah, for the record, I had no idea until like hours later.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd lost my mind.
I mean, back in the day with like the Merry Pranksters and that whole thing, when they were going around just dosing parties and no one knew. Just because they thought that it was going to be this great idea to open everyone's minds.
It only works if you tell them, though.
Right, exactly. You know?
Otherwise, they think they've gone batshit crazy.
Yeah, because the main guy that started that was actually, I guess, provably part of that government program where they were giving acid to guys in the military and seeing how it affected them.
Yeah,
yeah. So,
but they even had the courtesy to tell them, right?
They did, yeah. And he claimed that after he did that it just opened his mind so much that he just instantly was, you know, had the thoughts that I don't want to carry a gun. I don't want to kill people.
I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
that sense of connectedness you get to all living things.
Yeah. See, I've always got that more from. I did from LSD, but I tend to get it even more from shrooms. When they talk about shrooms like medicinally for depression, anxiety, this and that, like microdosing kind of stuff, I absolutely get that. Because you know, when I would do shrooms, I wasn't the guy that was just like, oh, I'm eating a whole bag and let's lose my mind. I liked that introductory feeling that wasn't really all about the visuals and, all of that, just kind of not in control. I like the aspect of it that, I don't know, I feel like I could sit there during a riot and be kind of in the middle of it. And if I'm on shrooms, I would be kind of like, wow, this is peculiar.
You could still be functional.
Yeah. Or I would just not react to it in a negative way even.
Yeah.
I could have just this crazy stuff going on around me, like, wow, why would someone do that? Yeah. Like, you just kind of, it always made me feel like omniscient in a way, you know, like you're just bird's eye viewing everything that's going on, and you just feel like this connectedness to everything. And like, I always felt like a peace and a calm.
That's right.
That I mean, literally before microdosing became a thing, I remember always thinking that there is a aspect of that I would be fine with being part of my mentality all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you say microdose, generally, like scientifically, that's supposed to mean that you have zero noticeable effect, which I don't know anything about that. And I don't know if that's good or not, but I know what you're talking about, because if I, just eat like a half a gram of mushrooms, which is not enough to even come up, but you definitely feel different.
Oh yeah.
It's not like 0.1. Half a gram, you can tell you ate it.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting about it, I've never heard it described the way you said as omniscient, is like, well, one of my practices in life is to try to maintain like presence and awareness.
Yeah.
While you're going throughout life. But I always have to stop myself and like focus on my breathing or become body aware. I have to do something to like become like aware of me instead of getting lost in outside attention. But when you eat that half a gram, maybe a quarter gram for some people, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's almost just like you could just stay there. Like just, you're always aware.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I've done it the biggest percentage of time at concerts, where I've or camping or just out in the woods, and, concerts and stuff. I would, it's always fun, but you might look over and some people getting into it or acting a fool and doing this and that, and just nothing. It's like, so there's that theory which is very difficult for a lot of people to do. Not saying that it's super easy for me, but one of the ideas that I try to be aware of just in life, kind of like what you were talking about, is that, the idea that no one can make you mad, for example. You choose to be mad. You know what I mean? Like you chose to be mad at that. Right. That guy didn't make you mad when he did whatever he did. You chose to be. Having that mentality is not easy. But for me, when I'm, was on like shrooms, that mentality kind of became normal before I even knew about that mentality. You know what I mean? Like right now, talking about reading it, like in Buddhism and, different Taoist philosophies, this idea of having really control over your mind and your thoughts and how you react to things, and knowing that it is your choice, to feel this way or that way. Because me, amongst all people, I promise there's times I'm like, yeah, fuck that shit. No, that dude made me mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do not pretend to be like absolutely in control of that whatsoever, but I know that is right. I know that feels right. I know that's a good headspace to be in if you can be there. And I felt like that, mushrooms and, microdosing to an extent, or even enough to feel it a little, made it to where that was just natural. I felt like nothing could make me mad. Nothing could upset me. I didn't look around I don't look around the group of people that I'm in and get that bullshit that, your ego, all the stuff that gets in the way of just things and life and all that. It seems like that was all gone, and I would always just feel really clear-headed. Because for a lot of people, meditation and trying to not think of anything is the hardest thing in the world. Yeah. Like you're saying, being present, thinking about your body, all that. But, that's kind of, I think, one of the most amazing things about hallucinogens and some of those experiences that I've had, is because I couldn't help but think that there's a side of me that feels like I don't care what I took. Something made that happen. And that's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. But I think the real value in it is like, it's like a cheat code to get familiarity with that space. It's not something
Totally.
you want to rely on.
Right.
You know, it's like a
I can see that.
show you the way, because you know you can turn anything into like, well, you don't want your goal is to be have to take drugs all the time of any kind, even a psychedelic. I think a microdose maybe, because it doesn't affect you too much, but
Yeah.
I think it does work. Like you said earlier, you get to keep something from your trips.
Yeah, I think it can open up your mind a little bit to, just different thoughts. Like I can never imagine like I'm going to take shrooms tonight and just like I went to concerts, but I was like I don't want to get in a bed. Like, I don't want to do I don't know. Nothing feels like natural with that. Is I don't want to do anything violent. Doesn't seem fun or just aggressive.
That's
That
interesting, isn't it? That's a shared thing.
It seems like it. Yeah.
I think like, I don't know what the data is, but just you don't hear of like people being violent on mushrooms and acid.
Yeah.
Like that's not really a thing. I'm sure it's happened, but there's always an exception. But it's definitely not the rule. Like alcohol, trust me, I'm an expert.
Right.
Ran bars for
Yes.
years now.
Yes.
Like not
I hear
everybody
you.
gets violent, but alcohol will always equate to violence in somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some people that's why they call it angry drunks. You
Yeah.
know, some people just get happy, some people just get angry. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like a movie or something, and it stood out to me as like a line. It was something to do with never drink to make a bad day better. Always only drink to make a good day better. Like don't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like don't use it as a crutch. Use it as because, hey, you like the taste and you've had a great day and let's have a drink. It's not, oh my God, I have this terrible day. I got to do it. Like that's how I feel like it can easily become a crutch. Like you were saying, you can do anything when you rely on it is terrible. But I think for people that rely on, some medications for, depression, anxiety, this and that maybe would be a good way to work your way out of that also. Maybe that's something that's more natural, that might end up helping. But it's also, all those things can be bad. You hear about artists, musicians, all these people that get to a place where they have to quit this certain thing because now they feel like they can't be creative without it.
Yeah.
Now you feel like, if I go out to a bar, I'm never going to meet a girl because I can't talk until I've had so many drinks.
Yeah.
And then I loosen up. There's always those things that it's like,
It's fine lines to ride. It's always a fine line to ride.
Yeah, can always end up bad.
Yeah, I've pushed some of those lines too far and lost before.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that's something everybody should be worried about.
Yeah,
Could happen to anybody.
Yeah, I feel I'm not immune to it. I don't want it to sound at all that way, but anything I've ever done in excess that I didn't want to do anymore, I was always able to quit pretty easily. Smoking cigarettes, quit easy. Like certain things I wanted to stop doing for a while. If I was like, oh, I don't want to smoke weed anymore, I just could. I don't think I have. I think everybody is susceptible to addiction, but I think some people have this like addictive kind of personality. They have like a genetic thing that it's easier for them to
A disposition.
Yeah, that's what I was.
That's right.
Was the word.
That's right. All right, I'm gonna kill this fly once and for all. Oh, he got away again.
Need some chopsticks.
Chopsticks, yeah, and a lot of focus.
Yes.
I could get the chopsticks pretty easy, but the skill is not gonna happen.
Yeah, I talked about getting a tattoo one time of like hands holding chopsticks with a fly in it. I want a little banner that said "You Beginner Rock." Like my Karate Kid tattoo.
Yes. I thought that was the coolest thing ever for like 20 years from when I was a kid until I saw what was that movie where they were like bending bullets and shooting the wings off of flies?
Oh, Wanted.
Yeah,
you're like
dude, when he
curving
shoots
a bullet.
Yeah, and he shoots the wings off the flies. I was like, oh, that's the new Karate Kid move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your head can just like slow it down. I wonder how many people really went to the shooting range. Like, man, can you do that?
Oh God, I hope not.
And he just ends up just shooting the walls over here. Somebody had to have got shot trying to do that.
That's a thing. That probably happened.
There should have been a disclaimer in that movie. Do not try this at home. There is no magic bullet theory.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of physics would tell you a lot about curving a bullet.
Right, right. Man, I actually, not to get on that subject, but
I think
that
you'd have
movie,
to. I think you'd have to curve the atmosphere,
yeah, you have
not
to,
the bullet.
a lot. Curve science.
Yeah.
That movie, I was so on board until the ending. I don't know. Sorry, everybody, if you love the ending of that movie. I was like, at the end, I'm like, all this kind of fun
what
stuff.
happened?
It was basically there was a magical loom, just the sheet of destiny that's weaving who should be killed or not. And they never explained, like, what, this magical yarn. We found a magical bed sheet. And we just, it just tells us who to kill. And I don't know, it just felt so dumb.
Yeah.
I was like, is that really what they're doing with this movie?
You're right. It is dumb. But then I think to myself, how accurate is that?
Out there is like a secret loom.
Well, how accurate is that to, like, how do we decide what's good and bad and what country kills what country?
Oh, Jesus.
It doesn't seem far off a secret loom.
Right. It's all nuts. It all seems crazy. Yeah. It's mind-blowing to me that we still live in a time where there's people out there that, I always equate it in my head when I was a kid. Like, you think you're a fucking Cobra Commander and you're trying to rule the world. Like that dumb shit that you still in your head have this idea that
there's bad guys.
That's ever going to happen. That anyone really takes over and, like, I'll bomb everything to take it over. It's like, you really want to be like the ruler of a barren, shitty wasteland? Like, it's all in the, the stuff going on now, like Israel, that kind of shit, just like all the religion stuff. And that's just, you like this guy and this is your God. And everything everybody kills each other for is insane to me. I mean,
yeah, it is insane. What's scary to me is the amount of persuasive argumentation, like, now. I don't trust it. I don't like it when somebody doesn't just give you the information.
Oh, yeah.
When there's this emotional argument meant to make you feel some type of way and do all of this, and then ask, you know what I mean? Like, I know a persuasive argument that's emotional is trying to get me to believe something, buy something, or do something. I'm like, maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. But why does it have to be presented that way?
Yeah.
Why can't you just give me the information? Let me figure it out.
Yeah, that's something.
It's curious to me.
Yeah.
And I don't trust any of it.
No. That's something I've noticed over the last so many years in particular. Everything got really polarized over the last so many years. If you think the news is full of shit, yeah, probably. I'm on board.
Yeah.
If you think only CNN's full of shit and Fox News is the gospel, okay, we need to talk. I think they're both bullshit. I think they're both not telling you the truth. They're both, it's a product. They want to be engaging. People forget that stuff. That it is a product. It's their business.
That's what I think too. I don't think they have a secret agenda.
I think it's a product. You realize that negativity gets so much more reaction than positivity. Just the way the news is, the way something is on social media, you get so much more of a reaction from negativity. And, it's kind of like, it's the best thing that's ever happened to mankind tonight at 11. Or it's the worst thing that's ever happened to mankind and you might be eating it for dinner. You're watching that.
Yeah.
The best thing, you're like, maybe I'll catch it.
Yep.
But talking to older people, like my parents, this and that, they feel like they grew up in a time where news broadcasters actually didn't want you to know their political affiliation. They didn't want you to know if they were Democrat, Republican, liberal, because it discredited them as reporters. And it wasn't about swaying you either way. It was about, well, this is what happened today. This is the information on what's going on. If you like that, you like it. If you believe in that thing or whatever, there you go. And when the news was able to be categorized as entertainment, which a lot of people don't realize, it actually, like, your local news is probably some of the best stuff to watch because it'll just tell you someone bombed this today and blah, 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 blah. But the CNNs, the Foxes, and all MSNBCs and all that stuff are actually categorized as entertainment news. Yeah. That's kind of how it's like that, scripted reality show.
Yeah, it is.
And so they don't really have the they don't have to go through the same channels as like the written word. Like you have to vet sources to be in the Wall Street Journal. You have to do that kind of stuff to be able to say these things.
That used to be the norm.
Yeah.
I mean, if there had the word news on it in journalism, like that used to be required. That if your bias or your opinion leaked out onto that, you would be ridiculed in that industry.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't read your shit anymore.
Yeah.
And now it's the opposite. It seems like in most publications.
Yeah, it seems like the people that go the most hard on one way or another are the most popular shows.
Yeah.
On news. The ones that are...
Yeah, which is certainly why everybody's doing it now. Because they need to get viewers for advertisers.
Yeah.
Do you think it's corrupt, though? I don't buy it. I think they're just trying to get views and sell advertising. And then it seems like it might be a conspiracy because they pick teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I think they pick teams because you can't piss everybody off.
Right.
You have to be on somebody's team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you pick a blue team or a red team or whatever, but...
Yeah.
Or do you think it's really corrupt special interests, the government controlling the media and special interest groups, pharmaceutical companies?
It's hard because I could see that, but then I also could see that, I keep using CNN and Fox because that just seems the obvious
They're huge,
of the right and the left. It seems like at some point neither one of them were like that. And then they just started realizing who's buying their product the most.
Yeah.
And so they start catering to who's selling their product.
Right.
I mean, it's no different than if...
Yeah, like what crazy shit do they want to hear? Let's tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that with, any type of business. If all of a sudden everybody was just wanting, this certain type of liquor at a bar you run, and it becomes a thing, you're going to start making that. It's like, wow, suddenly everybody is leaning more towards cocktails than beer.
Right.
You're going to do more of that.
Well, that, and there was an urgency because they're dramatically losing traffic to the internet and other sources. So with that kind of urgency, like survival becomes a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes them do whatever, I think.
Yeah. It's very, sensationalized too. Like the stuff that they follow and make. So I think one of the other problems, honestly, on that subject is that I don't think there needs to be 24-hour fucking news, man. There's just not that much. Just say what's up and move on to the next day, because when it became 24 hours, you have to just keep regurgitating something and finding something. That's why, not that I don't give a shit, but like, the hurricane that's coming towards Florida or something, let's say, that's local news, man.
Yeah.
Every once in a while to be like, hey, this is what's going on in Florida, and if it gets bad and people need help and all that stuff, awesome. But like,
that's true.
Second by second,
it becomes
following a hurricane.
It becomes like conditioning at some point.
Yeah.
Like now you're like voluntarily being brainwashed into being scared to death of this fucking hurricane while you live in Indiana.
Yeah. I mean,
it affects your life, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
They just have to have something to talk about all the time. So they have to, because I got sucked into it with the news thing for a while there. And then I remember my brother, it was during all this stuff with quarantine and, polarization and all this stuff that happened. My brother, I think it was, put up a post, said something about like, hey, if you want to have a really great day today, turn off the news. And I was like, man, that's a solid idea. Because I was just sitting there watching the world crumble, every day in quarantine. You're just watching all of this stuff because no one's really ever experienced anything like that in recent generations since plagues and all that. And when I turned it off and just stopped paying attention to it, same with social media, when I catered it more to what I wanted to interact with, my day was so much better.
Yeah.
And I did catch myself, and I was flat out disappointed in myself when I was realizing that, man, I was sitting here enjoying my day, having a drink, whatever, and then I'm scrolling through something and some asshole runs his mouth about this and that, and then some fight ensues online and everybody's talking about blah, 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 and then it's like, now I'm kind of pissed and I'm irritated.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anything, and then realizing that, tell me if you've ever seen it, but especially during that period of time, I don't think I saw a single one of these political COVID, back and forth, whatever subject it is, where somebody said, you know, I never thought of it that way. You're right.
Yeah.
I think you have changed my mind, sir.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's just, you know,
spitting each other's feelings on faces, man. Just
yeah,
nobody's listening.
There's no conversation. You know, like
Right.
there's waiting for your turn to talk, and there's coming up with your, you know, your just agenda that you feel like you're on board with. But a real conversation about a lot of these things, you should go into it being open to change your mind, you know, or at least understand why someone thinks that way, because that's a whole different level too. You can, when you understand why someone thinks differently than you about something, I feel like the way you think about that particular thing is less judgmental or angry or aggressive. You know, it's more like, well, you know, I get that. I personally think a different way, but
Sure.
I'm not mad at you for it. You know,
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a difficult thing because obviously a good conversation is like seeking the truth and a new idea or something, you know, learning from each other, trying to figure something out together. But we have this like animal inside of us that wants to win shit all the time.
yeah,
Especially turn it into a debate, then defeat another person,
yeah,
which is cool. But what if you're wrong and you win?
right.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's kind of just as scary.
Yeah.
You know, with some of the stuff, because I feel like it's happened a lot.
Yeah.
And especially when you learn that there is actually a real scientific reason that gets involved in like the art of conversation. Your brain, the way it fires and the way your neurons connects to the part of your brain reacts exactly the same when someone is trying to prove you wrong about something you believe in as getting punched in the face. Like when you get hit in the face and they got a brain scan on you, it reacts the exact same way as a debate over, you know, COVID ain't real or whatever it is at the time. Fox News, you know, CNN's awesome. You know, whatever it is you're debating about, your brain is reacting in the same way as being in a physical altercation with someone.
That's true.
That's why it becomes fight or flight. That's why people double down on everything and it gets angry. That's why whenever you're in a conversation with somebody, and I used to know some people like this that would be, when they start to lose the conversation, suddenly it's just like, whatever, man, think you can kick my ass?
Oh, yeah.
Then you actually technically know at that point you've won that conversation because
Sure.
they're now reverting to something they think they can win.
Yeah.
But
You really don't want the person to get defensive.
no,
You can't get anything out of them
no.
that'll help you if you make them defensive.
You want the opposite, actually.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you're talking about with the way we react defensively to being attacked.
Yeah.
Not just attacked on our reputation, but even attacking our ideas.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that you say that reminds me of Stoicism, actually.
Okay. Actually, I don't know if I'm familiar with that. Stoicism?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it was a secular practice of like how to operate in the world and govern ourselves before it happened about the time of Christianity. It was ancient Greek, old Greek, not ancient, I
Okay.
guess, just old Greek. But anyway, that's one of the major ideas is that you need to separate your ideas from your feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you let ideas become your identity, part of you,
Yeah.
then you have to defend them.
Yeah.
Part of you gets hurt
Right.
when you lose them, you know.
And ideas and beliefs, I think, are very different.
That's what happens to an idea if it gets too close to you.
Becomes a belief, and then that's this thing that you identify as yourself and a part of you. You know, I think ideas are open to change. Beliefs don't seem to be so much. It's like people just really associate that with who they are, and now you're attacking me as a person by going against that. You know, because I mean, I think most of us would say if you look back on all the times that you calmly thought about something and had a chance to react versus the times that you just had a quick emotional reaction, probably the time you had a chance to think about it a little bit is better. You know, that's why so many arguments ends up with later on, you're like, man, I'm sorry I was a dick, you know?
Yeah, so you're definitely going to have to look into Stoicism because like what you just said is almost like verbatim the core idea of the entire practice.
Okay.
It's the idea of how you react to the things around you.
Yeah.
Is the control, the influence you have. That's so interesting.
Cool. Yeah,
And I think,
definitely check that out.
dude, we see a lot of reacting now. Almost everything is reacting.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And it's so easy to not get that reaction. I actually do it quite a bit in day to day life because, I mean, I've tattooed you before. I feel like right now we're doing the same thing we did every time I tattooed you. It's just I'm
Yeah.
not tattooing. I get to
Right.
just like hang out.
And now I can listen a little better because I'm not in
In
pain.
pain. Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I've noticed that if you talk about something with somebody that maybe you have different views on, if you can start it off and find a way to talk about that and start off surrendering and coming their way, find something about what they're saying that you agree with, or
Yeah.
something that this president did that you agree if you don't like him, then it opens them up. And now they're
Yeah.
like, oh, then they're listening a little more, and they'll be able to actually have a conversation, and that fight or flight thing never happens. And that
Yeah.
is always a better way to talk. But you also have to be able to, kind of kill your ego a little bit and be
Sure.
willing to, submit yourself to an open conversation, because it does seem like there's an amount of submission to it. Just going
I have
hard
a
on your
trick for
thing.
that. I have
Oh,
a
do
trick
you?
for that. I find it difficult to just find something to agree with somebody first. Unless it's somebody that I easily agree with. Like you, we share a lot of similar ideas.
Absolutely.
But I also like to talk to people that I don't agree with shit
Yeah.
that they think.
Yeah.
And my trick for them is I just pretend that I don't have a view or opinion or a side. I'm like, man, I don't even know what to think about that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
And that opens people up. They're like, oh, clean slate.
Yeah.
I'm about to tell them everything I think. But then the real key, I think, is to show people respect.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they say crazy shit that is offensive to me, I'm like, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've thought about it, and I respect you. You know what I mean? You can keep that opinion.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, that was so offensive. I'm not taking that. It's not becoming part of me, though.
Right.
Like,
right.
I'm not going to agree with you there.
Yeah.
But I'm
yeah.
open. Tell me about it, buddy.
Yeah, there's
an art to that, because
Yeah.
that's what needs to happen. Because there's been shit that I've been wrong, like really, really wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
I thought an idea was so atrocious
Mm-hmm.
and horrid. And I found out later, I had all of the conditions and circumstances wrong. I had the context out of order.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, it wasn't a horrible idea,
Right. Yeah.
So, man.
You see a lot of that. Nowadays. I mean, I think it's interesting how people get really riled up about things that actually don't affect them at all in their day to day life.
That's right.
Right now, some of the big hot button issues and topics, people really go out of their way to pick it and have some stance for that. The interesting thing to me is that doesn't affect you whatsoever. Like no one, especially the stuff that I feel like, if there is a scenario in this particular topic that it does actually harm someone else, okay, that's different. But there's so many of the topics that go on that I feel like
it's inappropriate. It's an appropriate level of consideration. It's so inappropriate, and I think it's a kind of control or something.
Yeah, like why?
Like there was a 72-year-old man in Chicago, I think yesterday or the other day, that stabbed a 6-year-old to death over the Israel-Palestine thing. It's fucking.
I mean, that's not funny.
That's fucking nonsense. When you say it out loud, it's nonsense. But then if
the 6-year-old have that strong of a opinion?
him and his mom,
kind of impressed by the 6-year-old.
Him and his mom were like Middle Eastern descent, and the other guy was an old whatever. Yeah. But anyway, like it's nonsense if you say it out loud. But if you have to really take the leap to try to be empathetic of somebody who does something terrible.
Yeah.
Not to forgive them.
Right.
But try to understand, like, how could you get so upset about a war happening that many thousands of miles away to where you would change the world around you to such a violent degree?
Yeah.
That's an inappropriate level of participation in a global,
Yeah.
in a faraway thing. Not saying it's not important or we don't need to be informed, or
Right.
maybe we do need to even pick a side to support and stuff. I don't know the answers to that, but I know we don't need to just start killing each other in our neighborhoods from a war that's happening on the other side of the planet. It makes no sense. It's inappropriate.
Yeah, especially when you kind of want to, talk to this guy, for example, and just a couple simple questions, like, just curious. How is that war affected by what you did? Had you not done that, I mean, how about just other than the community around you that lost this little kid, that did nothing fucking wrong? You're 6. You couldn't have done anything wrong to deserve that. I don't care what the hell you said.
I'm sure reason
What did
had
that do?
left him long before he did that.
Yeah. Like,
But
how
he
did
must
that
have
help?
gotten so emotional about it.
Yeah.
And that's the danger you're talking about, of getting too involved with something or watching news for 24 hours a day.
And just filling you with
Yeah,
rage.
man.
And
Human
you're sitting
beings
there.
human beings are like, what do they say? Permeable membranes. We're like intuitive oracles. You can only live in something so long before it becomes all of you.
Yeah, and then apparently you have to feel like you need to really be involved in it, and
Yeah.
that's what you decide to do about it. And I think with some of these differences, people need to remember also the people that dislike this religion, this race, to the point of doing violent things. This gender, this thing, is like the one that blows my mind the most is okay, so you're so proud to be white. Let's think about what pride means. In my world, looking it up, it means to be proud of an accomplishment. Something you've worked towards doing and that you've accomplished. And I am proud that I did this cool tattoo. I'm proud that I made this business and I did that. What did you do to be white? What did you do to be any color? There's no one marching down the street that's saying, oh, people that have left arms. Fuck yeah. Everybody, we're having a get together for people with skin.
That's
you
right,
didn't do anything to achieve it, which is different than being maybe proud of like a background, where you came from. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you feel like you are better than just because of something you had nothing to do with and the way you were born, you could have easily been born any other gender, any other race, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like interesting that the one thing you were the most proud of in your life is the one thing you didn't have shit to do with.
Yeah.
Like you don't have anything
Right.
else to occupy your time to be more proud of. It's like, bro, you need a hobby. Go buy a fucking kite, build a model, dude. Like, take a culinary class.
Yes.
How in the fuck are you that proud of the one thing that you had nothing to do with?
Yep.
And there's so many versions of that.
It is. The older I get, the harder it is for me to wrap my hand around so many of the stupid things that divide human beings. I like Sam Harris's take on it. He's a philosopher, neuroscientist, good deep thinker, very objective man. His solution to the whole thing is, it reminded me when you said it, is that as soon as the color of somebody's skin or whatever becomes as trivial to us as the color of somebody's eyes, that's the answer.
Yes.
And I think that's so right, dude.
Yeah, I think, when all these laws, all this stuff was happening, wouldn't it have been cool if the laws in a country would have been based on a mannequin in the corner that you don't know shit about? Are you a human? Yep. Do you live in this country? Sure do. Well, you get to do what everybody else gets to do. If you do this job, you get paid the same. If you love this person, you get to marry him and do whatever. Like, why do we need to know all of the personal life of everybody's stuff for them to be able to have like the same rights as someone else? Like all of that should just be the ideas that of evolving, I think, is when that's all wiped away and we don't consider that and it doesn't matter because it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, you're right. But I also don't get too bent out of shape too, like, because I remember it's still new for us.
Right.
For the world.
Yeah.
This idea of like, unalienable rights for all humans is a new thing.
Isn't that fucked up that it is, though?
It is fucked up.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
in a weird way that what is it? Was it because you went to another country and you had never seen people that looked like this?
It's the power of convention, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
the way it was
so-
before. That's the way it'll always be, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, so I just automatically
Well, it
don't
makes
like
you wonder, though, what conventions do we have that we don't notice that are stupid?
Oh, I'm sure we have a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more than you think, more than you want to think.
Yeah.
I think
if you want to know what they are, eat a bunch of mushrooms.
Right.
And then you'll be like,
yeah.
why do I do that?
Yeah. Apparently take ayahuasca. You're going to come face to face with all of your terrible shit. But yeah, I think a lot of it that separates me from if I agree with it, like it, this and that, or whatever is also, it doesn't really affect me. Like I have these conversations with people that I tattoo. I tattoo people on the left. I tattoo people on the right.
Yeah.
I talk to them all day long, every day. I'm
I
not
like
the dude
that
that
about
puts on
you.
headphones, which is fine if you do. But
You're not even that quick to feel like you need to agree with something or not, or form a judgment or opinion at all. You just are sort of participating. I think that's a really lost art, dude. That's a special power.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think
I
think everybody needs to practice that a little bit. Like, just because you hear something doesn't mean you need to join a team and burn some shit down.
Right.
Like, you can just learn about it.
Yeah. Or could you have met this person and hung out with them, went to a concert, become friends with them, and not know every single opinion they have on every political, social event in the world?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You could have friends that, like, fuck, actually, I assume maybe he thinks this way about it, but we never really talked about it. When we hang out, we're talking about the new John Wick movie and having drinks and talking about, philosophy or whatever it is, that it became now like people. I was blown away when I've had clients tell me that that are single, that are wanting to meet someone, and they get on Match or whatever your chosen one is. And I guess now it's pretty common that people will put something like, if you don't like Trump, don't even bother.
Oh no.
Or if you don't like Biden, don't even bother. And it's interesting because my in-laws.
Politics and dating, boy.
Yeah. My in-laws for years were, one of them was Democrat when they voted, and the other one was Republican. They've been married for 30-something, I don't know, 40 years. And that was kind of more normal,
Yeah.
And now the idea that, you're not going to get to mingle with and have these discussions and all the stuff that we're talking about because you're all just, you're separating that to where you don't even want to have those discussions anymore. You just want to sit in a room of people always that agree with you, so you never have to challenge your own thoughts and your own emotions or feelings about something.
When you say it like that, it really makes me notice the line of divide getting wider. Mm-hmm. Like, there's always a little bit of a divide, but it's definitely widened deeply in the last 10 years, 15 years.
Here's the weird one with that, is it's almost kind of like you talking about, is the news really corrupt or is it just a business? That conversation is talking to people day in and day out like I do. People aren't, at least the people I talk to on different sides of the aisle, aren't as extreme as I feel like the news is making us feel like
the internet isn't real, bro. The news isn't real either.
I know.
I'm convinced now, like,
I agree.
Like, I'm a scientist too. That's one thing I do have some practice at is science. And I rely on the scientific method when logic fails. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, what is the evidence? What is the variables here? What is this equal? And what I can figure out is the fucking social media and internet isn't even real.
Yeah.
The real world, I can go out in it right now and it won't sound anything like that one.
No.
At all.
No, not at all.
There's not a good representation of people talking on there.
And unfortunately,
I think the moderate people have gotten quiet.
Yeah.
But most people are moderate, I think.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to do this, though. Like, I get these ideas like, oh, man, make sure to ask Tim about his business and his family and all this promotional, the good fun stuff to say. And I'm like, as soon as me and you get together, we just go right into
talking.
with no format.
Yeah.
That's why it's fun to talk to you, though.
Yeah.
We cross paths a lot, and It's always like that. We like see each other. I'm like, yeah, we just start talking. I'm like, man, we should like formally do this sometime.
Yeah,
So it's cool to get to do it.
it is. Yeah, because it's nice to talk to people that are open-minded about different stuff and not feel like, like the conversational dance I was talking about earlier, not feeling like you're really doing that.
Right.
Knowing that you're not as worried about offending this person or, this and that with what you say, someone that actually is going to take that in and give you a chance. I think that's why people get pissed, but I think that's why there are some people with podcasts that do really well because they actually let people speak. They like, hey, just because it's not something that is popular or you might not agree with doesn't mean that you can't give that person a chance to say what they say.
I agree.
Or I think that you have to have that. I think freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of saying stuff I agree with. And it's turned into that sometimes, but
it has. It has. There's this sort of like tyrannical totalitarianism approach happening. I don't think that we have a person behind it, but definitely like it happened to where you couldn't have an unpopular opinion or you would get hurt.
Yeah.
You didn't exactly have a guy behind a curtain with a gun to your head like it was in the Soviet Union not too long ago, but it wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
You would lose your job and maybe your kids and shit if you said something people didn't like.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got to where people also didn't want to risk associating with people.
Right.
And then it got to where people weren't allowed to platform people. And I'm like, man, that's a bad idea.
I agree.
The free exchange of ideas is how this country operates. It doesn't mean the ones you like.
Yeah.
It means all of them. Even the really shitty ones. And people are like, oh, you can't. They're afraid that if people are allowed to spread bad ideas,
it'll grow.
Yeah. You can't approach it that way. The good ideas and the truth, you have to count on them. You have to have faith in them to win.
Yeah.
And you don't want the bad ideas hidden from you. You want to know where they are.
Right.
You want to encourage people to say what they think and they feel deep down inside. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because what do you want? Do you want like your kid's coach to secretly be a Nazi?
Right.
Or would you rather know about it because you like he's allowed to express his terrible ideas?
Yeah.
Because then you get choices to make at that point. Like maybe we don't make this guy the coach.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't work. Because I think a lot of the bad ideas like that are going to end up working themselves out in a negative
or they
way
get
for the
socialized
idea.
out.
Yeah.
Like he finds out that nobody likes that idea or you.
Right.
So maybe I need to work on this idea.
I mean, there were times where I've had the thought of, like in Indiana, when there was the thing that happened with the bakery that didn't want to make the cake for the gay wedding. And then we passed the Religious Freedom Act, and then that got overturned.
We had to make a law about it or something.
Yeah, and all of that. And that this can't happen, and all that. And I am on the side of I'm very liberal when it comes to that kind of stuff. I think, hey, I don't care who you marry, who you love, what you do.
Right.
That's your world to.
But do you
that's
think
your
you
right
should
to have.
make people make cakes for them if they don't want to?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is that there was part of me that felt like, if you want to say that you don't serve gay people in your restaurant, or you don't serve this type of person at your restaurant, maybe you let them. But just put a sign on the door so everybody knows you're a fucking asshole, and people stop going to your damn restaurant. Like maybe if they did that, it's like well, don't go there now, because I would wonder, and I understand the the feeling probably of what that's got to be like to have someone treat you like that. That's terrible.
The problem's complicated. I'm not saying the problem's not complicated.
I agree. It's
but
terrible.
The solution seems simple to me. Because what do you really do?
Well, I wonder...
What happens if you make people make cakes for people they don't want to? What happens?
Yeah, you're going to end up eating a lot of spit and urine. It's just like, I mean,
It isn't, like you said earlier, people don't just start agreeing with you because you get loud or forceful, or
right.
if you are required to do something.
Well, now, so that's the, that's that double-edged sword. Is I get why that sucks. I get why that's not cool, but I also get kind of what you were saying with that scenario with the Nazi coach is, well, now we got this shitty bakery in town that we know how they feel. Now you're not like secretly, spitting on the cake when you see a gay couple come in. At least now we know, well, I'm not going to be a patron of that particular business because, they run it in a way that I think sucks.
Right.
That, so in some ways that coming out is kind of good for that cause, because now you know who the asshole in town is that you don't agree with, or whatever,
Sure.
I don't think there's, like, that's one of the subjects I was thinking of earlier when I was kind of talking about how the stuff that people get so upset about that doesn't affect them. If your neighbors move next to you and they're gay or transgender or they're whatever, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't bother you whatsoever. And so to me, like, it's hard for me to imagine that you're not a little bit mean if your MO is, I'm just going to go and I'm going to pick it nonstop. So these two people that love each other can't love each other, that I'm never going to meet, I'm never going to know, I'm never going to hang out with. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to spend all of my time to make someone's daily life unhappy.
Yeah.
When it doesn't affect you.
Yeah, you think that's like inappropriate activism?
It's just like, I just don't think, and this is probably a very touchy subject, but
I don't know. They all are anymore. Yeah.
But I think Jesus, for example, seemed to be way cooler than a lot of people that follow him. I mean, Gandhi had this quote.
I thought you were going to say he was gay.
No.
I was like,
well, there's an argument.
I was like, how much trouble do you want to get in, bro?
I'm about to edit the shit out of this. I think someone's burning this place down as we speak. No, it's interesting that like Gandhi had a quote that was, I think your Christ was an amazing person. Too bad your Christians are nothing like him.
I like that one a lot.
I do too.
That was Gandhi? I thought it was Dalai Lama. No, you're right, that was Gandhi.
Maybe it was one of them.
I think it was Gandhi.
Yeah, I guess that's what I thought. And I see that in a lot of people, and I think there's some people that get really turned away from religion because of this and that. I think it's just, religion is something I don't particularly adhere to, as far as I don't call myself a this or a that in an organized way whatsoever. But I've always been enthralled by it. It's always been so interesting to me, how it works, and people feel a certain way in such a hardcore manner about certain issues that they don't remember that the guy that they based their life on, you without sin, cast the first stone. What was he doing at that time? Protecting basically like a prostitute, a lady who was cheating out on her husband, and all this stuff.
I'm with you 100%. Like, what are we talking about? The guy that never went to church and that flipped over tables and...
Thank you.
And
the only violent thing he ever did was
homeless
money collectors at the synagogue. That's when you got it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
But
right.
I've brought up to people that I know personally well, these conversations that I know I can have them with, that, and I'm not even saying it's good or bad politically, it's not really about that, but it's interesting to me that if you're extremely right, on the right side politically, and Christian, because I don't think you would vote for Jesus to be president. I don't think you would let Jesus be in charge of border security, because Jesus would be like, no, man, we got all this money. We got abundance. We got all this money, all this food, all this shit. Fuck yeah, I don't need to know why you need to come here. It's a better life. Yeah. I mean, he would be taking money from rich people. He would be Bernie Sanders. He would be taxing the rich to make better lives for everybody. I mean, that literally tipped over the tables of the merchants at the synagogue. You shouldn't even be in here collecting money. You should be giving money to these people. Yeah. It's so that separation is interesting to me. That, like, if you had Jesus come back and run on a platform and not tell people it's Jesus, I think a lot
Dude,
of
he
people
wouldn't
that are
even
religious would hate him.
He wouldn't even get into McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like, no shoes, no shirt, bro. Come on.
Right.
Step,
Oh, yeah.
homeless guy.
Dude,
get
it wouldn't go well for him.
Like,
yeah. 200 years from now, we'd be wearing little electric chairs.
yeah.
Because we'd kill him again, probably,
Yeah, we probably wouldn't even be smart enough to follow through with a prophecy. He probably wouldn't even get that much attention.
Yeah.
It sucks to think about. And I'm not saying I'm a huge Jesus fan or something, but it sucks for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I would vote every day, twice on Sunday, for people to have the rights for their religion. I just would love if the majority of those people would also vote for things that would allow me not to be. Like if I don't, if I think it's an even ground to, I know when you believe in a certain thing, it is hard to separate that from how you think about politics. So
I think religious people are as guilty as everybody else, because we're talking about like layers of things. Like, okay, there's like God, and then there's Jesus, and other religions have different names of different books. But then there's like the Bible, and then there's the idea of Christianity as a whole, right?
Right.
Those things all really kind of make sense to me. Mm-hmm. And then you start to lose me when you start organizing it with these groups of different kinds of churches with special interests that are trying to accomplish something like socio-politically, and they have their own agendas. Yeah. And they're clearly trying to keep their building full, just like a news channel is trying to keep viewers. And they just, from there, I think from there is where things start to go wrong for some people. Yeah. And clearly I've not been to every church in America, because that would take 5 lifetimes.
It'd be hard to get every church in Kokomo.
Yeah.
There's a new one.
So I'm sure there's some amazing ones out there that.
Oh yeah.
And what I do know is even churches that probably really fuck shit up really bad, they still do awesome stuff for their communities.
They do. That's something
they're always there for each other.
Yes. That's something they don't get. I feel like I think there's a lot of atheist assholes. I think there's some people that, like you push your atheism in people's face just as much as, someone knocking on your door. You're like, oh, don't put your religion in my face. I don't want your religion in my face. But then you're all over social media shitting on anybody that says thoughts and prayers to the victims in Israel. It's like, that means bullshit and blah, blah, blah. So you're kind of doing the same thing.
You're an anti-belief. That's still a belief.
Yeah, I mean, atheism as a word is weird that it exists. There's not a word for people who don't believe in fairies. Like there's not really words for people who don't believe in something, and that's the only one, because I don't know, or we have to categorize that because it's such a big deal. Yeah. Like as far as people that
I don't understand how that works. I know, like agnostic, isn't that the word for I don't know?
So basically, every atheist is also agnostic, because agnostic is like, if there was proof, I would believe it. Well, that's everybody then. If I'm telling you right now, I don't adhere to Christianity. But then I look up and I'm like, what the fuck? And the sky parts. Fucking horns come out and white horses in the sky, and people start flying up. I'm like, shit, I was wrong as fuck. I'm going to start praying.
Well, and I think, here's what I honestly think. Even though you didn't ask. I don't think it matters much. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Because I think if you, rule all of that shit out, you have two choices. You can let hedonism and bad ideas become your god and worship a pleasure and stuff, or you can come up with a bigger vision for your life and do what's useful for that. So what has utility? Yeah, for that. And if you do that, the first thing you find out is that all of these ideas that you can find them all in the Bible. Is they're there because they're useful for what it takes to be an awesome human being. And you can also find them in the Quran. Yeah. And you can find them in yoga and Zen and Buddhism, Hindu way of life. It's in all of them.
It is. It's like how to not be an asshole.
And how to spiritually evolve in the lessons of being a human being. They're all just in there translated in different ways. And they're really useful things.
So I kind of had this theory once when I was kind of trying to imagine, God and religion and all this stuff and being real, is You know how you own a business, so you have multiple people that work for you, with you, all that. You have kids, stuff. So there's going to be this one person that works for you that when you tell the exact same news to, they want to hear it just flat out. They don't want to be coddled about it. Then you got someone else that you got to baby step it. You got to this and that. Then you got someone else over here that you got to think. You got to approach it this way. I'm like, what if that's just kind of like, well, I'm going to make a book and a way of life and a God that in this country, in this area, because that's how that's going to be received the best. And that's the vibe of these people. But then over in this area of the world, I'm going to drop this one. And it's all the same thing. It's like if there was a God that did them all, like you're just kind of teaching the same stuff in a different way, and because it is interesting how undifferent they are.
Especially if you read them like less literally.
Right.
If you remove like the word from word part, and you start just looking at the meaning.
Yeah.
Then they all sound really fucking similar.
Really fucking similar. Yeah, there's not really one out there that's like, hey, we think murder's dope. There's not really any of that. They're all kind of super similar and have
Sometimes people point to the Quran and Islam and say, hey, there is a line in there that says murder's dope. But
right.
It's also full of them that say the opposite. So who knows?
I mean, I think at best, if any of it's true, there's still a hint of man in it. I think the Bible was supposedly written as like this filter through people, but it's still a filter. There's a lot of stuff in there where it's kind of like, and that's why all the different religions, even in Christianity, we believe this part of the book, but we don't believe this part of the book, and this and that. The fact that women ain't shit in most religions, it's kind of
seems clear to me that some of the ideas are have evolved. I understand the sacredness of not wanting to change stuff, not trying to evolve text too much that's useful, especially if you believe it is literally the word of God. Yeah. I understand that. I'm like empathetic to that. It's a problem though.
Yeah.
It's a problem when there's some stuff in there that's just we've discovered is clearly wrong. Like with all the sacrifices and stuff. Yeah. And treating women in a certain way is no longer acceptable.
Right.
But, I'm not making a moral statement. I'm just saying, like, Christians now don't treat their women like it says to in the Bible necessarily, right? So they've already decided we don't do that anymore, but we're still going to say that it's
still in there. Yeah. So that's and I think there's nothing wrong with, believing it in that way, but still understanding, it is a filter. It is a little dated. There is things that I think maybe were put in there for, reasons, at best. That doesn't, it doesn't mean that it's all bad, because some of it is. Because like I was saying earlier that, there's a lot of atheist assholes. There's a lot of people I know that are atheists that won't give Christianity or religion any credit. And that's bullshit. I don't see a lot of atheists out there that are going on missionary type things that are like bringing water to these, places that struggle. I mean, they do a lot of really good charitable things. There's been the idea that there hasn't been good in it. And this is coming from someone who, isn't a believer in it, but I still think it has done a lot of good. I
think religion is amazing.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Right. I think it works for some people.
Yeah. I think it works for society and culture.
Yeah.
Until it becomes extreme. Or it gets abused. Like everything gets abused.
Yeah. I think there's people out there that I maybe need a weekly reminder to not be an asshole.
Sure.
To not be a dick to their fellow man.
The rituals of religion are not a bad idea at all. No. I mean, if you don't believe in any religion, it still won't hurt you to drop down to your knees and humble yourself and make a prayer to be a better person.
Yeah.
Even if you believe you're the only one going to answer it.
Right.
It's still not a bad ritual.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to send me your thoughts and prayers, that's good, positive energy. There's nothing I'm mad. I'm not going to shit on you for that. That's...
Email Tim Boor.
Right.
all of your prayers.
all of your thoughts and prayers. Please send it. Yeah, I know. I like that stuff. I don't get mad about. I think there's a difference between someone who doesn't believe a certain thing versus seems to be mad about it. Like, I'm not out there trying to keep anyone from believing. That seems like that's a dickhead thing to do too.
Yeah, no prayers ever hurt me.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite quotes that I guess I like a lot is from Robert Langdon book. That's actually the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
He says, faith is a gift that I have yet to receive. And to me, that's a good way to explain it. Like, there's just so much about it that I struggle with as far as, and most of it is the details. The idea that there's some energy thing that created it all. I don't know if it's to do with the beard, and all that. That's like striking you down, watching you masturbate, I don't really know if it's like that.
Right, but the idea that there's something bigger that you cannot possibly understand that has something to do with the magic in this universe.
Yeah.
Sure.
And my grandparents were religious, and they were, my whole family actually were really good about doing that and not being judgmental. When I became a tattooer, my grandma her reaction to it was, oh, wow, yeah, well, I've always been such a good artist. I bet you'd be really good at it. Didn't judge anybody about it.
As soon as you said that, it made me realize, I think, where super organized religion went wrong. I think they sort of became like this, let me say like Jordan Peterson says it, because he's a religious person, but he criticizes the hell out of them. He was like, he calls them finger-wagging moral authorities.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Like, you're looking down on people, telling them how they should be, and that's not how you stop people. That's not how you get through to people, and he's right.
Yeah.
That's why I think there was a mass exodus from organized religion in our country. There's a whole generation of people getting smacked by rulers and shit.
Right.
Telling them they're... Like, that was a bad strategy.
Yeah. And that was my issue growing up in church, that I was fortunately enough, on a few occasions, able to talk openly about with my grandparents. I told them at one point flat out, when I started thinking about things for myself and not just kind of going through the motions of, I call a tree a tree because I was told to, when I started to really think about what it makes sense to me, one of the first things I was like, guys, I just can't get myself to have this fear that there's this little red-horned guy with a pitchfork ready to burn me forever because of, these decisions I made and this whole, like, bow, kneel, say my name stuff. It seems like King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, and that's all we had when we think of a ruler when these books were made. I think a real God that created all of this would be so much more advanced beyond these terrible human emotions that we've been talking about in this conversation that you want to work to get over. Jealousy, anger, wrath, like your God is an angry God, a vengeful God, a jealous God. Like, I don't buy that part of it.
He sounds pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, these are things that the Dalai Lama, Gandhi, all these people, philosophers, have tried to overcome.
We've met people that overcame more than that God you described.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah. And so that's the stuff that started leading me away from the organized, version of religion and like the actual just adherence to the book. And I think that it's difficult because, and it was like even hard for me. I had residual effects at times, and a lot of it just went back to being inundated with fear. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. This is speaking in tongues, hooting and hollering. I mean,
Shame.
Oh,
isn't shame a thing?
Yeah, it's very fire and brimstone.
Oh, man.
It's more like they're luring you in to their religion and the way they think you should be, more out of fear of not being than out of the beauty of what they're selling. And I never liked that.
Selling fear is so suspicious to me.
It is. And it's so fucking easy too, though. You get somebody scared of something.
That's why it's suspicious.
Me and you had a great business plan based on it at one point. We were talking about, right. I hate to say it that way. It wasn't technically just fear related, but it was a byproduct.
Yeah.
That would have sold the fuck out of shit had we done it.
Yeah.
So fear sells like a motherfucker. It really does. And that's what gets asses in seats and how I grew up. And so this idea of being able to get it out of my head that thinking this way doesn't mean I'm going to burn forever and have this terrible deal, it's still in your head because that's how you grew up. That's what you were taught from such a young age that it's embedded in you, so
Yeah.
it's hard to get over.
I've always had this idea since I was a kid, and I want to run it past you.
Awesome.
Because, religious people just think I'm batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I don't think there's any evidence to suggest my idea is any crazier than anybody else's.
Oh, I'm surely not. Yeah.
That this is it. This is the good part.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
This is heaven. If you really stop and think about it, like, I think I heard Alan Watts kind of talk about this once. Like, if you were God, it would be like going to sleep and having you could dream all the most amazing dreams you ever wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, they wouldn't be amazing anymore because there would be nothing, no confrontation, no toil, no contrast, right?
Yeah.
So eventually you would get so bored.
Yeah.
You would voluntarily pick to have evil in your dreams and challenges and struggle and all these things that humans have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it, man.
Totally
and I think the
that.
world has been it has been an awful place for humans for most of its history. And right now, and in some parts of the world, it still is.
Oh, yeah.
But what if we're just like, this is it, and this is the precipice, and this is heaven?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a bummer. I mean, it's good and bad because a lot of people's heaven is real rough.
What if this is heaven and we're just fucking it up?
Oh, dude. I mean,
damn it.
We would fuck it up.
Yeah. But what else would you ask for? If you really think like, okay, if I go to heaven tomorrow, what would I ask for?
I mean, it's hard to imagine, like you're saying, that there's anything that you would ask for that, especially if you said, pick this scenario and that's how it's just going to be forever, that you would never get over that.
Yeah. Or what, just getting things that you didn't earn.
Yeah.
That you're not working for, you didn't struggle for. Would it even be rewarding? Like, here's a street of gold. Like, cool. Can I take it back?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and even some of that stuff, streets of gold and all this. It's like, is there?
It's fucking nonsense.
Do we got to pay for shit in heaven? And what does it matter if there's gold? And when you die, you get 40 virgins. It's like, okay, do I get chicks pregnant in heaven? Well, no. Do I get AIDS or anything like that in heaven? No. What if I want 40 crazy bitches? It's like
40, man. 40's a lot. That sounds like a lot of work.
Experienced chicks to do some like crazy, it's just like some of that.
Hopefully
stuff,
they're at least my age.
Right. Some of that stuff is that's the silliness of some of it to me. That's hard for me to buy.
Yeah, that's when like you can't take
entertaining.
You can't take it literal.
Right. Because that's a dude. That's a guy that wrote that. Oh,
Clearly.
yo, bro, you know what happens when you go to heaven? If you follow what I say, dude, you get like 40 virgins, dude. And then, oh, shit, I like that. And, well, there you just hooked a bunch of guys. You sold that product real well. But, yeah, I think
it doesn't change the fact that there's something deeply meaningful that does, in fact, live in sacred texts. And it's there.
Yeah.
I just don't trust some other asshole to interpret it to me that's charging me a cover charge.
Yeah.
That's all. That's my qualm.
Well, and it's almost like when we were talking about earlier with the news being this thing that just doesn't give you the information and let you decide. Why didn't all of the books make it into the Bible and let us just read it? Why, there literally was that whole Council of Nicaea, that whole deal that was put together with Emperor Constantine, where he wanted to help people come together and not be so separated and war all the time. So let's make kind of like Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all. Let's make a book. But they didn't put all of them in there. And they're all were found in the same area, supposedly the Dead Sea Scrolls and all this stuff. Like, what? I mean, that's what I've said. Like,
it did work, religion, though.
That's interesting. It did work.
It did work to organize society and culture and law, and it did work in a good way. That it did increase morality. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just the awesome perspectives that you have are essentially a result of that day.
That's fair.
You're allowed to have those.
I agree.
Because somebody was willing to change the world and fight for your ability to like have this moral code. That's so interesting to me.
There's parts of it that I think if it's actually real and it exists, I totally get, and it's amazing. And then there's parts of it that if it was not, and it was made up for control, like some people think, that's also genius. I mean, coming up with this
Yeah.
idea that
That's
now I
divine.
don't have to watch you and all this. Now I got an omniscient, invisible thing watching you do all the shit alone in a room when no one could be in there. Now there's someone watching you do all of your terrible shit
like
all
the
the
ultimate
time.
tyrant.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
now it's just like the invisible king that can just come and go whenever he wants. And even the idea, I mean, there's so many genius ideas
Yeah.
to it as far as, you know, like the idea of confession. Now you got this guy that's like the president of your country coming in telling you all of his darkest secrets. But it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be a sovereign nation and we're not going to pay taxes and we're not going to do this. Or I'm going to let everybody know that, you know, you might be touching a butt or two that you shouldn't, you know, or you're cheating on your wife
Maybe
or you're doing
that's
this.
it. Yes, maybe
You know?
that's it. Maybe God is inextricably also our clever corruption.
Yeah, because what if this is the other thing that sucks. What if this God and this beautiful idea of creation and everything, what if that was real? Well, let's say it is real, and I'm
Yeah.
entertaining that thought. And then man came and did what we do with every amazing technology and every amazing discovery. We weaponize it, and we
Correct
used it
it.
to control someone else
Yeah.
and be the one who owns it. You know, like we got the secrets. We're the ones that own it. We
Yeah.
can't let you know the secret sauce. You know, and
Yeah,
we
so
weaponize
God's
it.
up there and he just nudges Jesus on the shoulder and he's like, "Can't believe they fucked this up this bad.
Oh yeah.
Like, look at this shit.
Or the amount of times
It's
God's like,
time
"Could
to
you-"
make it rain.
Right. Well, we're gonna flood this shit.
Start over."
Yeah, wipe that out. I guarantee you that Jesus, God, is up there going, could these fucks please stop putting my name on this crazy shit? You know, like everybody does it doing this stuff in my name.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the word for everything, and that includes the light and the dark, the yin and the yang. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm certain that I'm not qualified. I'm certain that I'm not qualified to say any of this,
Right.
other than I'm a human with an experience.
With thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like,
And I'm sure that all of my ideas now are bad.